Let's see. Let's
This is
okay.
this
Please,
is XM over here.
let's forget about this, please. This is serious, XM, please.
I always am.
Okay. Oh, it's streaming, so you can pick up the live stream.
Awesome. Thank
Okay, good.
Two minutes.
So when we find these clips, we can send them, and then he can play them. That's good.
That's
like
very
that.
good. We can. That help. It would bring up talking points.
No, it helps. It gives the quality, the show, a different feel.
It makes it a show.
Yeah,
it makes it a
it makes it a
professional
show.
show.
It's
More
already a
professional.
professional show. It's just gonna get more professional. This guy's a trip. This guy, you know what?
You basically said the same thing twice.
Right, it is a professional show. Please,
It's just making it more professional.
well, it is more professional. I like this. When I heard it, I loved it. I said, "Oh, he's thinking about the show." That's what you should be doing.
I need to stop thinking. 1:30.
Oh, you'll never stop thinking as long as I'm involved. I already know that. I like that. So let me just say, the clip I'm going to first is about the plantation and the senator. Anthony, what's that senator's name? Do you know his name?
Hold on, I gotta read it.
Yeah, I need his name. We got to get paper in here. No, scratch paper, back up. No, that's okay.
There you go.
To his office.
What?
No, Anthony said something.
What now?
Anthony said, "Where'd you go?"
No, I said there he goes. The chat.
Scratch paper. He heard me. He heard I was going to get scratch paper. He knows exactly where I went. Okay, so we're going to, what's his name?
It's on the chat.
Okay, good. Albert Guillory.
30 seconds.
Okay, let's hit it. Hit it.
Five, four.
Must be that time.
You're hot.
Strong. Oh, I know I'm not hearing no feedback.
You're hot.
Wait a minute. Oh, good. You had me worried there. Everybody, somebody, anybody, I'm Armstrong Williams, and welcome to the show, 1-866-801-8255. The tremendous feedback after the show is just, it continues to build. And we want to be on the cutting edge of ideas, of thought,
Mic down.
life changing. Oh, I did not take care of my mic this evening, but I'm going to do that as I continue to chat it up. You know, I want to have a candid conversation with our audience tonight. You know, most people know that I am pretty conservative. Yes, I am. I am pretty conservative. But you know what? My conservatism doesn't include my being anti anybody for what they believe in. You know, the beauty of this show is that we really embrace and celebrate each other's views, perspectives. Everybody who calls in, who's a part of this broadcast, makes it so rich, so informative. I've learned so much just being in this broadcast booth day in and day out. I mean, the feedback we get, I mean, from people that I would never think would listen to Sirius, they listen to the show, and they really like the show because they say this, brother, you make me think. And I want to tell you, sisters and brothers, you make me think, okay? And we all need to grow. We all need to expand our intellectual capital. And so I want to pose a question. And the reason why I'm going to pose this question, oh, Alex, how are you?
I'm doing well, thanks, Armstrong. How you doing tonight?
Oh, you know how I'm doing. I'm going to do better. Listen, here's what I want to pose this. Now, Alex, you grew up in an environment of, you would say, liberalism.
Yes.
Describe what that is.
Liberalism, in in my background, it was spreading what you had. It was giving unconditionally,
Wait a
helping
minute.
whoever.
That's not liberalism. I believe in that.
Yeah, but that's how they described it. Everybody should have equal and fair share of everybody's belongings.
Oh, wait a minute. That's different. Let me stop. That means if they didn't work for it, they didn't earn it, they should still get 50% of what everybody else earns?
Doesn't have to be 50%, but it should be a nice portion.
Now, I've never heard that before. That's a new one on me. Explain that in more detail.
Well, I grew up in a church, so a church is very giving towards the needy. And so they believed other than tithes, other than paying, your tithes on Sunday, putting the collection plate, you should always give forth and not hand out, but help the less fortunate with your time, talent, and treasure, whatever you can do. Volunteer in a church program, or just, slip them a little something to help them on their way.
Well,
with
that
their
means
troubles.
giving not by government enforcement or by church enforcement, is giving based on your free will and what you're comfortable in giving.
Yes, whatever you're comfortable in giving, but sometimes in the sense that you would be frowned upon if people knew that you had more than what you say you had, and you were frugal. You wouldn't give.
That would be frowned upon?
It would be.
Listen, I don't know if you all are familiar with Louisiana Senator Albert Guillory. Albert Guillory has been a lifelong Democrat, and he did something pretty historic this week. He left the Democratic Party for the Republican Party. I'm not here to advocate Democrat to Republican, Republican to Democrat. This is not what this broadcast is about. And it's not even to me about his switch to the Republican Party. It's not even about that. It's about what he said about the Democratic Party, which he's been a part of its apparatus all his life, and what it actually does to certain voters in this country. I want you to listen to this because I really want to discuss this. I want to find out whether you believe this is true, whether we are just stereotyping the Democratic Party in certain communities, whether you believe that the Democratic Party contributes to a welfare state of mind, a state of mind of dependency, of out-of-wedlock births, no personal responsibility and accountability, that the government should take care of you, that you should frown upon the wealthy, and that we should tax them as much as we can to take what we want. I don't know if you came up in that kind of environment, but in listening to State Senator Albert Guillory, and many people have been calling me about his remarks within the last 24 hours, and Anthony, our producer, who did such a fabulous job of pulling these sound bites together. And what I want to do is go to Senator Albert Guillory to let you listen firsthand to what he had to say. I don't want to misinterpret what he had to say. And then I want you to comment. We're going to come back and discuss it. Senator Albert Guillory.
But it was the Democrats in the Senate who filibustered the bill. You see, at the heart of liberalism is the idea that only a great and powerful big government can be the benefactor of social justice for all Americans. But the left is only concerned with one thing.
Just let me know when you want me to stop it.
And they disguise this control as charity.
You hear me?
Such as welfare, food
I
stamps,
was going to say your mic is muted so you can talk.
lift black Americans out of poverty. They were always intended as a mechanism for politicians to control the black community. The idea that blacks, or anyone for that matter, need the government to get ahead in life is despicable. And even more important, this idea is a failure. Our communities are just as poor as they have always been. Our schools continue to fail children. Our prisons are filled with young black men who should be at home, being fathers. Our self-initiative and our self-reliance have been sacrificed in exchange for allegiance to our overseers, who control us by making us dependent on them. Sometimes I wonder if the word freedom is tossed around so frequently in our society that it has become a cliche. The idea of freedom is complex and it's all-encompassing. It's the idea that the economy must remain free of government persuasion. It's the idea that the press must operate without government intrusion. And it's the idea that the emails and phone records of Americans should remain free from government search and seizure. It's the idea that parents must be the decision makers in regards to their children's education, not some government bureaucrat. But most importantly, it is the idea that the individual must be free to pursue his or her own happiness, free from government dependence and free from government control. Because to be truly free is to be reliant on no one other than the author of our destiny. These are the ideas at the core of the Republican Party, and it is why I am a Republican. So my brothers and sisters of the American community, please join with me today in abandoning the government plantation and the party of disappointment, so that we may all echo the words of one Republican leader who famously said, "Free at last,
Okay.
free at last.
Okay.
Thank God Almighty.
You're hot.
We are free at last."
Wow. Wow. Did you listen to that? Let me do a recap. Controlling blacks. Schools are failing. Prisons are overcrowded. What happened to the self-initiative, the self-reliance? What has the overseer gotten you? What has he done to you? This dependency. Freedom has become a cliche, and we don't understand how complex it is. Are you free of this government persuasion? Parents should be the decision makers when it comes to their child's education, not government. You should be able to pursue your own happiness, relying on no one. And you need to get off the government plantation. Wow. How many of you, 1-866-801-8255, did anything that Senator Albert Guillory, he was so eloquent, he was so profound, is there anything that he said that resonated with you? I saw you moved a little, Alex. You listened to that. What was racing through your mind?
What was racing through my mind is how much I would have to say I do agree with some of it, with what he's been saying.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's something to say that. It's true. What he's saying is that it's not wise for us to just rely on anybody.
Anybody. That's what he said. Anybody.
To rely on another person to take care of us. Yes, people need help. Yes, we need some help, some funding, but we also have to be the ones to control our own destinies, because we do decide our own path and the road that we want to travel.
So this is the question I really want to ask our listeners tonight. We've always talked about the failings of certain communities. Can we actually look to the government as a new form of racism, of the dependency of certain people they believe that they've made us believe they wanted to give their freedom and equal opportunity, and yet their whole agenda was to keep them dependent so they would not take jobs and opportunities away from the mainstream society? Is this a new form of racism? Is this a new form of slavery? Can we actually say that the government, with all its social welfare programs and its great society programs, has been the greatest danger, the greatest harm to the overall black community? I know that's saying a lot. 1-866-801-8255. That is the question that we pose to our audience tonight. I rail against the government. I rail against dependency. I rail against the government rewarding women for having babies out of wedlock and punish them if they have a father in the household. But is this something to control a certain group so there's an industry that is created for them to become fabulously wealthy by keeping these people poor, keeping them dependent on government, and continuing these social pathologies that continue to pop themselves up in every direction from these communities? Is government a drug?
Yes, it's a drug and a crutch, unfortunately. To a lot of people. In my old neighborhood, I've seen many people who used to just, they come, they sit outside, and they do nothing, unfortunately. They do nothing. They wait for their checks to come in the mail, and they cash them, and they live off that. And I guess they're comfortable with that lifestyle. I guess they're fine with, just sitting outside and watching the days go by, not doing anything productive with their time, talking to their neighbors, drinking, maybe having some little side hustle that they do. But other than that, they just sit and they wait for the government to give them money, and they don't seem to aspire to want to do anything more.
And the government seems more than willing. I know we're coming up on a break here soon. And we're going to take calls at 1-866-801-8255. We want you to participate. We're asking, is the government the biggest detriment to the community? Listen, call us. We see you. We're on the board. You heard what the senator just said, Senator Albert Guillory. It's interesting. Is the government not your best friend, but your worst nightmare? Call us. Don't move. We're going to take a break and come back. I'm Armstrong Williams.
Armstrong.
You know, it's very true. I used to pass by the same people every day, sit in the same spot, in the same step, and they do nothing. From 7 in the morning to when I come home at 5 p.m. One of them sold car parts. He put radios, he put stereos in the cars. That was his only other, I guess, means of income. And it's sad. It's sad that they're living off of government dollars.
We get calls here tonight.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Sounds like it's gonna be a big topic tonight.
We always hit it, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
That's why they call it the right side. But that brother was good.
Yeah. I think a political shift might happen soon in the future. It all depends on what happens, though. But I think people maybe will start shifting more conservative. What do you think?
I don't have to. We did the work, now they're going to work for us.
No, I was asking your opinion. Do you think the country's going to become more Republican now?
It's not they're becoming more
1:30.
They're becoming more wise because they've got to make a living, and the government's programs is being drastically slashed.
And they don't work.
No, they don't work.
Who set up those things? Who set up all that stuff? NAACP and our civil rights leaders. They abandoned us. They're the ones that screwed it up.
Is that
1 minute.
Anthony sounding like a Republican?
That's not a Republican. That's a human being. It's a person.
Come home.
I'm not a part of no party. No party affiliation whatsoever.
Is that an angry black man?
You can call it whatever you wish, sir.
You gotta listen. I appreciate the fact that you're comfortable, but some people, I know you didn't mean harm, but some people can misinterpret that. Okay, but that is what some people call it.
I mean, it was Anthony. I wouldn't have.
I know you didn't mean harm, but I just don't want Anthony to react. You know, just don't, because I know you mean well.
30 seconds.
So we gotta grow our young brothers and hang in there with them. Looks like we got some callers here, brother. Oh,
yeah, you lost 2. I had a total of 5 or 6.
Who did we lose?
I don't think you put them up.
Is Kwame and William still there?
Kwame isn't. 9 seconds.
What about William in Texas?
Everybody else is there.
But not Kwame.
No, sir.
Let's get to it. And welcome back to the Armstrong Williams Show. Thank you so much for joining us. And the government is running out of money. And when they run out of money, where do they slash first? The poor. The invalid. William in Texas, thank you for holding and thank you for calling. William.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. We can hear you.
Yeah, I just heard the last little part of that speech. I just jumped in the car after work. But it kind of makes me think back about whenever you're talking about the president speaking at Morehouse. And, of course, we can't use that as a crutch. But sometimes in the form of, like, education, where I went to school, I graduated. I was number 3 in my class. But when I went on to the university level, you know, I couldn't compete when I went to the private Christian school. And that was the same case for a lot of my peers. And they ended up either not graduating and going back to the school system that didn't fully prepare them for the real world. And the ones that did stick it out and keep going to school, they ended up graduating, but it took a lot longer than it traditionally would. for any college student. So, yes, I do agree that there is a different form of segregation, but we can't, like you said, use it as a crutch. But what do we do whenever our kids and our black people, or even minorities as a whole, go to schools that don't prepare them to even make it out and make a better situation for themselves?
You know, it's tragic. It really is. And you were third, and it did not even prepare you for the collegiate level when you went to graduate school.
Right. Well, then I'm talking about at the high school level.
Right.
You know, at the basic level, and then getting the extra education to even, like I say, to go to the collegiate level and get that type of job or the type of education that you can take to show and say, hey.
Well, I have a better question for you before we get back to the phone lines. How did you turn it around? How did you change it to find your footing in the world?
Well, you know, as far as myself and it's the other portion, because it does take a special person to say, okay, you know, I'm not going to use this as a crutch. You know, even though I can physically see, you know, that I wasn't given the tools that I needed to you know, survive, again, at the collegiate level, I was fortunate enough to be part of a scholarship where I had to go into one-on-one meetings with advisors and, you know, scholarship holders that would say, hey, this is your support system. You know, we're here for you. But what happens, again, when a student gets caught up in one of the larger schools where they don't have that support system and they're kind of just fighting with that limited education that they've been prepared with, and then they end up either getting discouraged and dropping out, or, again, if that one special person just is that determined, they ended up going and graduating, and then being, you know, 6 years later, they're 26 or 25 years old, and just now obtaining that bachelor's degree.
You know, we've got man, thank you so much for this perspective, and thank you for sharing it with us, William. Let's go to Tony in Michigan. Hello, Tony. Tony. Yes, sir. Go ahead. We hear you.
Yeah, what I was calling about is, you know, we like to say that we use the government for a crutch, but you can fail to realize General Motors, Chrysler, the bankers, all of them, the government bailed them out. So when we say welfare, is that what you're talking about?
You know, look, we're talking about individuals here. We're talking about how individuals are led to believe that the government and its Great Society programs has their best interest in the short term and the long term, but yet it has a crippling effect. You should never allow somebody to do for you what you ultimately must do for yourself as an adult, as a father, as someone in the workforce. I mean, the government has a role to play, but you should never think that it's going to be permanent. And look at what's happening now when the government is cutting back on these programs. Who's severely affected the most? Those on the bottom rung of the ladder.
That's true, but see, it goes back to, it doesn't make a difference where you start at. Only difference between yourself, you, the president, and myself is the way we think. So if you think low, you're going to end up low.
But listen, one of the things that I got from William, and I mean, he was special because he overcame this. Let me tell you something. It can be devastating for you graduating number 3 in high school, and you get to college, and you realize that you're not prepared academically. It's as if you were robbed in your high school. They led you to believe that you were the best and the brightest, but yet when you were in that environment, you were ill prepared. And what it does for your confidence, what it does for the reality of what your professors and your teachers, the situation they place you in is crippling. You're behind the 8 ball.
But see, that goes back to, like I say, the way you think, because you got to remember, one of the greatest push we had in this country came from Henry Ford. And I'm not saying education is not important. Education is very important. If you're out there, if you can get it, get it. But we got to start teaching our young kids to think big, not just go to college to get a job.
And you know what? And I hate to say this, and college is not for everybody.
Yeah.
Tony, thank you for calling. Let's go to Kwame in California. Hello, Kwame.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I just want to chime in on the conversation. I just got in my vehicle not too long ago from work. First, I want to say with the young man that just got the call before myself, the way we think, he's absolutely right, because myself, I'm a first generation out of my immediate family to go to college, first one to graduate high school, and I'm the 4th child out of 5. And absolutely it's the way we're thinking. And to the caller before himself who said the high school has failed us, honestly, in our community, one thing that I realized through my mentors and as I progressed out the inner city and moved up into college and eventually overseeing 35 restaurants for one of the nation's largest burger chains out here in California, is that the education system failed us when we're young, just because whether it's the community we're from, whether it's our social economic circumstances, or so be it different factors, but really they fail us at a young age, and what end up happening, in my opinion, is social promotion. And once we get into the high school level and the administrators and educators see that we're applying ourselves and want to do better beyond high school, that's when I believe the challenge becomes once you get into that college level. But I originally called in because of the senator's comments, and I would like to say that I believe the senator is dead on in terms of us as a community having us to depend on the government or programs to uplift us, because I would say the government is not the main part of the problem within our community. Part of it has to do with ourselves. But I would say that those programs plays a factor in terms of keeping us down and not uplifting us as a community.
Kwame, thank you so much for your eloquence and your sincerity, and thank you for listening to the show. Barbara in Texas, thank you for your patience, and welcome to the show. What do you want to add or take away?
What I want to add is I really think that the senator is right. We have to learn to motivate ourselves. Our kids today, well, just in general, you know, we try and get them through high school, you know, junior high, all these things, and they seem to think it's a game, and it's not. It's their future. I mean, it's the rest of your life beyond high school. And education is so important because it tells an employer if you're employable, and they don't get that until sometime it's too late. And it's very frustrating because I'm a parent. I'm a single parent. I have a 16-year-old that has had all the advantages that life can afford her. But I sometimes have to pull teeth to get her to do certain things. She's a leader, very intelligent kid, have everything to easily get into an Ivy League school. But this is a kid that, and I get very frustrated as a parent because I'm like, why am I having to pull teeth? You have everything in front of you. Why not take advantage of that so that you may be Secretary of State one day? Why not? I think that's a great opportunity. But so, you know, we have to start at a very young age. But sometimes I think parents do get frustrated. It becomes very hard, even within the church. I mean, you have things within your church and the community. You know, I know that my child has been exposed to all of that, the church, community activities, civic groups, everything that's out there. And, you know, I'm still sometimes pulling teeth, and that's very frustrating to me as a parent. I am educated, and I'm thinking, okay, my child is just going to fall in line with this because what else do you do? And I think she wants to become successful, but not understanding it takes a lot of hard work, that nobody's going to give it to you. You have to go out there and take it now. You have to start showing that at a very, very young age and keep fighting and fighting until you get there. It takes a while to get there.
You know what you're saying that I've really never processed before, Barbara? You know, I always think about the students that are challenges. They have challenges. They have behavioral problems. They have learning problems. But yet, we never process that even the good students, the intellectual students, the well-behaved students, you've got to push them too.
Yes, exactly. And I'm telling you, I live it because my child is in private school. My child has been exposed to everything from travel to everything else. And I still at times have to pull teeth to get her to do, and she wants all the trimmings, but you have to work for it. I can't just give it all to you.
30 seconds.
I don't know how to work for it.
Because you will cripple her in the long run if you do so.
I mean, you know, so what do you do at that point? With some parents, say like a parent that's not like me, I'm going to stay in there and make sure she gets there, but she still has to, take it by
15.
No, because in 2 years she'll be going off to college. I can't go to college with you.
No, Barbara, thank you. But hang in there. she'll make that turn. She will make that change, and all your hard work, all your sleepless nights, all your sacrifices will come for full circle, and you will see that you will be blessed because you were willing to do the heavy work, not knowing whether or not she would get it, but eventually she will get it and make not only you, but the community that was involved with it a proud mother. And let me tell you, she will be an example for others. Thank you. We're coming back. Don't go away. Armstrong Williams. Is the government your friend? No, it's not. We'll be back.
Clip. Just an update. We got Kendall from Tennessee, James from Michigan, Calvin from Arizona. Calvin's been on for 13 minutes.
Oh, I missed them.
And
okay.
Dwayne.
And Dwayne. Okay, I'll go to Calvin, Dwayne, and then Kendall and James. Oh, I missed them. Anthony.
Sir.
When we come back, we're going to play back a little more of what, maybe about 30 seconds of what the senator said. So for people who are just joining us may have missed it, we'll refresh what he said, and then we'll come back to the callers.
Okay.
All right. See how that soundbite is important? Take it from me. I know about this. When Zoom was together, you know what? It was the fuel I needed tonight. Oh yes. I don't have to work as hard. And people heard those words. I couldn't say them better. It was it's great. So it was great. Seriously. Someone to produce this. They do. Now Charles doesn't do that. But you know what? I didn't know that was available.
No.
No.
They never mentioned.
No one ever mentioned that before.
Are any other features you might be?
That's a lie, because I did. I know I did. 1 minute and 30 seconds.
Within 10 seconds he hadn't read it. What are you talking about? That means we can create our own videos and stuff we want to talk about. There's so much we can do with this. Understand? And if we can do it here, we can do it at 4. It adds to the show. I'm about the show. Mm-hmm. I'm about what makes the show better. I don't get caught up in personalities.
Amen. Amen.
What?
Amen.
What?
Amen.
What?
Amen.
What are you talking about?
I don't get caught up in none of y'all personalities. This is about my job. It's about my job.
What are you talking about? You're not even
it's
in
about
this
my
conversation.
job. About
You're not
my
even
job.
in this conversation.
My job, sir. It's about my job and how I get reflected upon.
You're not even in this. What is he doing in this conversation? Excuse me. Let's come on. Let's come back. Are we back?
No, we ain't back.
Look, it's good. It's good. That guy, Logan called me to tell me. Logan sent it to me.
Like 15 minutes before the show.
Yeah, he was raving about it. I wouldn't have known anything.
30 seconds.
That's why I need, but he's not gonna find that. That's why there's so much that's out there that we miss. Good producers will find it, and Nancy's not gonna find it.
So, all right.
We have a whole news feed over here, man. We have like
take advantage of this.
There's 50 clips that I can go through right now from everything from today, from GOP.
This changes the show.
8 seconds.
Okay, 8 seconds. This is about the show, baby. For me, it's about the show. Don't think about it. Only it's about the show. Look, I want to say this. Let me say this before. I know the government has made a difference in so many lives. I know the government was there, and I know there's a lot of gratitude. But listen, nothing but God should be the only thing that you depend on in life, because you got to depend on him, because he created you. You shouldn't depend on your parents, because even they have their limits. You shouldn't depend on your siblings. They have their limits. You know what? God blessed the child that got their own. You've got to have the instincts to survive. You want the best education. I like the fact that many of our callers call back to say that they left high school at the top of the class but went to college and got the shock of their lives. And they're willing to share that. You've got to make sure that you demand that these teachers are giving you advanced placement courses, that they're challenging you. You do not want to become some statistic, okay? You don't want to become somebody that's just being processed in the system. Because, listen, you should have gotten something in that high school that when you got to college, not only were you equal to your peers, you soared above them, okay? Let me go back to the phone lines. Calvin in Arizona, thank you for your patience, brother. I apologize for keeping you on hold. I overlooked you as I was going through the calls, but go ahead.
Thank you for taking my call, Mr. Armstrong. I really don't know where to start. I'm kind of like one of the other callers that jumped in the car on the way home from work and you were on.
We can play the clip back.
I agree with some of your callers, and also right before your last commercial, you mentioned, you asked the question, is the government your friend? And then you also answered your own question by saying, no, he's not your friend. So I'm kind of confused, and I would like to know, when you say the government, are you talking about the people that's running the government, or are you talking about the government system, the platform of the government? So what part of the government?
The bureaucracy. The bureaucracy is not designed to empower those on the bottom rung of the ladder. Our system of government is the biggest Ponzi scheme in the world. That Ponzi scheme keeps those who are rich richer. It keeps those who are poor poor. It keeps the lobbyists in business. It keeps certain people hired. It keeps certain consultants hired, because people make a lot of money off people being poor, just like the credit cards. Hope that people have bad credit. They don't know how to use a credit card. And so our mistakes and our judgments and our lack of understanding how these systems work allow these people to exploit us and keep their feet on us so they can continue to monetize it. And you just tell me government programs that really overwhelmingly empower people. You look at the government programs. If you look at certain communities in this country, they have been supporting certain parties. They've been putting these certain programs in place, and yet they're no better off today than they are yesterday. In fact, they're worse off than they were 30 years ago, 40 years ago, maybe 50 years ago. You ask yourself why. You don't think the government knew that when they put these programs in place that it would not benefit people in the long run? It would make them dependency and create these hellholes that we see across the country?
I agree with you 100%, Mr. Armstrong, but I also see that the media plays a huge part in this.
Kill this call.
People are uninformed on those issues that you just mentioned. And they just taking us down the road, and nobody will stand up and let the people, hey, this is what's going on. You know, I mean, if you want to talk about parties, you know, both parties do what they need to do to get their people in. And, I hear you talking and let, your audience know what's going on, but the major networks, they don't do any of this stuff. I mean, they don't, say, hey, look, y'all, this is what's going on. And if we don't get this thing right, I mean, we're all going to lose.
And you know what? We're losing. And Calvin, thank you for your patience, and thank you for sharing your perspective with us. Let's go to Kendall in Tennessee. Hello, Kendall.
Hey, how you guys doing? How you doing, Mr. Armstrong?
Just fine, and thank you for calling.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. I'm just like the guy that you just got you speaking with. I mean, there's so many things that I want to touch base on, but I think I know where you're going with the government in terms of, whether they're truly a friend or not. But, I kind of see it from a perspective like this. The government is no more of a friend than any other person that's in your life. I mean, they're going to be friends that you're going to come across that are going to be awesome to you. You're going to have great interaction. And then there are going to be some that may have started off similarly, but then things tend to go south. And I think in reference to the government, if we as individuals put ourselves in a situation where the government now is attacking us for whatever reason, let's say, for example, it could be child support or it could be, some IRS issues, then, yeah, man, the government is not your friend. But prior to that moment, there were things that we as individuals are in control of that can eliminate that or could have prevented that based upon informed decisions that, we have to be aware of. Because let's think about it like this. We can talk about all the negatives about the government, but let's look at other governments. One thing that's unique to our government is that it does give you the opportunity to travel from being impoverished to being middle class to being one of the richest individuals in the world. There's no other government that can play a role in enabling you to do that. Man, I've been to a few countries, not many, but there's some individuals that I've met in Jamaica and Dominican that would die just to have the opportunities that we have to put themselves in a better situation than what they're currently in. And I'm telling you, they're just some of the most intelligent people that I've ever met in my life. So from that aspect, I'm going to say that the government is a friend. Whether he's a good friend or not is based upon what your situation is and what decisions you make in your life, to where the government will become directly involved.
You know what? I got to tell you something. What you said is so exceptional, and I cannot disagree with you, because your choices determine the amount of influence and control the government will have in your life. That's the bottom line. We got to make better choices, and we got to learn how to live within our means, and we must understand that nobody will ever do for you what you can do for yourself. Thank you so much for calling. Let me go to James in Michigan. Hello, James.
How you doing, Armstrong?
Fine, and thank you for calling.
I was really interested when I heard the young man talk about, see, I was fortunate enough to go to a white school as a child growing up. And when I got to college, I saw a lot of my black counterparts that came from supposedly good schools from the inner city, and they could not do the basic math that they thought they could do. And they were flunking out of engineering and pre-med because they did not have.
Don't forget about Dwayne.
And one of the things that we have to look at, we have to hold our government and our school systems accountable for what they're teaching our children. And if we don't hold them accountable, they could be teaching us anything. And one of the things that really struck me was when I was in college in the late 70s, early 80s, I remember a Klansman by the name of David Duke, when he made a comment and he said, we're no longer wearing sheets, but we're wearing three-piece suits. We're going to attack you on the educational level and in the school. So we have to keep our children, we got to take responsibility for teaching our children and making sure that they're getting the proper education.
Amen. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Dwayne, you're up next. You're on the air. Go ahead.
How you doing, Mr. Armstrong?
Fine, and thank you for calling.
Yes, I'm a first-time caller. I was listening to one of your guests who stated that he graduated at the top of his class and then went to college and he wasn't prepared. Well, I had the same thing happen with me. I wasn't necessarily the top of the class, but took multiple advanced placement classes. And I actually went to Morehouse. And my first week in one of my composition classes, the teacher pulled me to the side and said I was writing at a 6th grade level.
What?
Yet I graduated high school on AB honor roll. Now, I have to tell you, I was completely floored. I went to my dorm room that night, and it's like I just thought about all my years of grade school, and it seemed like it was for nothing. And I broke down crying. And at that moment, I decided, okay, I'm not at the level that I need to be to compete at this school. So I went back home, went to a local university, and lo and behold, when I go to a local university, now I'm back on the AB honor roll level again. And then that's when it dawned on me. I was like, wait a minute. How is it that one level of students, well, at one school, students are being essentially taught to get white-collar jobs, but then at another school, you're being duped into thinking that you're actually, you're ready for the world. But when you graduate, you're actually just prepared to do blue-collar work. And that really shocked me. And so now that I have children, what I've done is I've made sure that teachers understand that I say the schools are only going to teach them 10% of the education that they need to make it in this world. As parents, we're taking it upon ourselves to make sure they get the other 90%, since we are out here actually living in the world and we know the skills they need to be able to compete.
You know what? I wonder how many other kids and parents listening to this show can tell that same story. That is a tragic story. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're going to take a break. Callers, don't move. In fact, I'm going to go to the break a little earlier so I can come back and have more time in the last segment to get to all your calls. So just be patient with us. We'll be right back.
Teach on different levels depending on the school. You could be.
What do you mean different levels? What do you mean? I'm lost.
Like he said,
you can only teach on one level.
That's what
everybody should have been taught the same thing.
That's how it should be. But certain schools, like for example, my sister's school.
So they're getting paid to pass kids?
Yeah, certain schools only teach just to pass the region, so they could push the kids out, so they could keep getting the funding from the governments, because it looks like they're doing something. But all they're doing is teaching these kids how to pass the Regents test, and then they get out to the real colleges and they realize.
I had a different experience. College was too easy for me.
Well, you had a real education, from what I've read and heard.
Yeah, but I could have gone. I went to South Carolina State. It was so easy. I was ace in physics, calculus, geometry. I had my freshman and sophomore year, I had a perfect 4.0 average. Until I said,
2 minutes.
I'm going to do this more. I ended up with like a 3.6. I didn't have to study much. I was accepting it. And I should have gone, but my parents wanted me home working in the summer. But it didn't impact me when I got in the marketplace in terms of intellect, because the IQ, I had a higher capacity. So the difference with me is that when I realized, my parents realized that I didn't have to study hard, they made me read books, far more advanced books than I was in college. So I read, and so for me, I supplemented a lot with reading. That's why I read a lot. That's why I continue to read today. But if you don't do that, listen, because see, I can self-taught. Like homeschooling, I can be self-taught. I can teach myself. I can read it and figure it out. I don't have to be in the classroom, because all the teacher does is go through the book and explain what he's been explaining, regurgitating over and over and over. For me, and I guess one of the reasons why I did well in school is because before I went to college in my freshman year, my parents went and bought me all the books. I read all the books before I even went to my first semester class.
That does help, because that's exactly how teachers teach. They go by sections in the book, and then they sign the assignments in the back.
Right. It's like just reading the book. So I was reading the book. And in my sophomore year, got all the books, read all the books.
30 seconds.
I was reading the book.
Recap. You have Jock and Catherine.
Okay. Thank you. So, yes, I had to. But maybe that's why I was ahead. Maybe it wasn't so, but still. And even when it was complicated, and some of it was complicated. Let me tell you something. That I remember that physics. Oh, but it became easy once I got to the classroom. Because once I got the basics from the professor.
You hot?
Hey, let's go back. Let's go back. Jock in Texas. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for calling the show.
All right. Yes, I think we're really missing a lot of the point. When we talk about government, we talk about welfare and stuff. We always talk about Pookie and Nuck Nuck. That's who we put our focus on. But the reality is, in math, whether you got Harvard or Yale, United States rank real low in math. So our whole education period is messed up, and we need to really sit back and look and see what's going on. And with the black community, our number one problem is self-hatred. Our number two problem is we don't practice group economics. We brag about the Asians and the other races, but we don't want to imply the skills and the ideals that they do. Like as far as like they sell soul food, we don't have no businesses. All we do is say, hey, go work for somebody, go get your education and work for somebody. We don't motivate our people to work for themselves. And that's how you can stop welfare. Work for themselves, start your own businesses. And you can create jobs for yourself like the other races create jobs for themselves. And that's the problem we do not tackle. We get in a political thing, Democrats and Republicans, both of them came from one, and we get this party going on with, do this here, oh, it's their fault, it's the Democrat, no, it's the Republicans. No, forget about that. We're human beings. And if we really tackle this problem as human beings and stop trying to blame it on the party, because there's no reason for us for these corporations to go out of the country and come back and sell goods to us. Those jobs right there. But we too busy trying to do the party stuff. And I think we just bouncing all over the place and not attacking the real problem. And I think it's unfair to use somebody who's lazy and don't want to do anything and use them as an excuse, because we know black people are not the only people on welfare. You know, they're not. But when you talk welfare, that's the only race that's put in the forefront, no matter what you're doing. Truck driving, plumbing, school teacher, whenever you talk about that, those are that's the race that come in everybody's mind. And we got to stop doing that. There's too many black people out here that want to do something, that's trying to do businesses. We have to focus on them also.
Amen.
Focus on, oh, he don't want to work. That's the reason why the country's in the problem. That's the reason why the country is in this bad shape, because people on welfare. That is a lie.
Well, let me say this to you, Jock. I think what you're saying, which I agree with, it doesn't matter. You thrust anybody into this situation with the government programs, and you passing kids along, and they're not really getting a real education. You only want to make sure you get that funding every year to justify, to make people believe that there's progress. These kids are doing well until they get a reality check. You thrust any kid in that situation, I don't care what their race and background is, the results will be the same.
I agree.
And that's the bottom line. And I agree with Jock. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for calling and sharing that with us. Miss Catherine in North Carolina, how are you today? And thank you for calling.
Yes, I was calling about the government, and you talk about government programs. Have a friend disabled that can't work, and when she tries to get, manage her money, budget her bills, and have a little money, the government tells her, sorry, you have too much money, we're going to try to kick you out of the program. And when you can't work, it's like you want to have something, but the government's keeping you down and keeping you poor, no matter what you try to do to better yourself.
Yeah, you've got you know what? Listen, if you go to places like Appalachia and some places in the deep South, I mean, this is not just it's not no black issue. This is an issue where everybody's impacted by the government and what they've left these communities. I mean, they look like desolate areas. I mean, they look like war zones. They look. That's exactly what they look like. And you telling me that the government doesn't know exactly what's going on and what they're doing? Is it they really don't want these people to compete in society, to take jobs and opportunities away from others?
Well, a lot of people, when they're on the government programs, they try to have a little bit of money and try to do for themselves. They're like, oh, you got too much money, so you'll kick you out the program. Well,
look, Miss Teresa, thank you so much for listening and calling the show.
Hey.
Ronell in Kansas City, you're on the air.
How you doing, sir?
I just need you to turn your radio off for me so we don't get the feedback, because we really want to hear you and not my voice in the background.
Okay.
We want to hear it live.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead now.
And as far as the government, my situation may be one in a million. And like I was young, 18, come out of high school, straight A's, all that good stuff. I ended up getting in trouble because I come from a bad area. Ended up going to prison for a little while. Did about 8 years. I come out of there, and there was a caller called in, a lady named Barbara, and was talking about how you motivate your kids, and that, and then just growing up and hating the situation that I come out of, kind of being not having much. I started going to school. Now I went at the college, community college level for a little while. Did very well, Dean's List. I had one teacher that kind of motivated me. My parents wasn't really around as much, but he was an Ivy League college teacher. He used to push me hard, to where I excelled. Now from there, I work for I actually work for Johnson Controls. I'll tell you that. I do statistical and process engineering. It's kind of what I'm finishing up my degree in, and things have been going good. I keep God first, but one thing is that motivation. As to that caller lady that Barbara was talking about, the kids.
She was exasperated not exasperated, but frustrated that her daughter just doesn't show more leadership and more appreciation for the life that her mother created for her as a single mother.
Yes. And well, to what she was saying, as far as I'm just going as far as how the government. Now, I've had to face some things. However, I just constantly keep pushing. That's what we have to do as a people, as a nation. As far as when you feel the government may be, there's things that you can do, and they'll put roadblocks in. But you got to prepare for that, understand that it's going to come. So, my grandfather told me once. He said, "Grandson, when you run a race or when you do something to where there's a clear understanding to. There's not a close finish. There's not a you're not line by line. You're way ahead of the pack, and that's how you have to motivate yourself, because it's serious as far as in this job market in the world, the way things are set up in society. especially as African Americans, you have to push harder than the next. You can't just settle for, okay, Tom and Bob, they're doing this. If I do that, I'm gonna be okay. No, you gotta take that extra step and just have that installed within you, and to keep on pushing.
Well, look, thank you so much for calling and sharing with us. It's so good. You know, let me go to Teresa. Teresa, we lost you there for a minute, but you're back. Go ahead.
Oh, Teresa. Oh, okay. I work for the government, and being that, you know, the job that I do, I think that the government in itself somewhat enables, you know, people to not to succeed in a sense that the family structure is just not there, and people, I think we in America, we got too comfortable of expecting handouts and government aid, and whereas in other countries that doesn't have a welfare system, you're somewhat not forced in a way, but I think that sometimes in America we get a little bit too spoiled and expecting the government's supposed to give a handout and with all these entitlements in a sense. And I just think that we need to realize that other races that comes from a socialist background that doesn't come a welfare system. They come to this country and they pull their resources together. They come together as a people. They buy within their own people, and I just think that, you know, with the example of the mother saying how she was providing for her child and she doesn't want to take initiative and leadership, it goes the same way how people expect the government in this country to act, whether they're just taking our own ownership and taking our own ownership in what we need to do. And now that everything is going down, you know, with the government and the breakdown of the family structure and everything else, you know, it's just kind of, you know, you kind of seeing what's going on now.
Well, look,
you know?
Teresa, from firsthand experience, I think you've echoed so much of what others have echoed, that we've become too self-reliant on others and not on ourselves. Thank you for calling back, and thank you for listening to the broadcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome. AG, your final thoughts?
My final thoughts? America needs a lot of work. We have a lot of work that we as a people have to do. We need
to basing you. Speak up.
We need to understand that now is really the time where we can't just keep relying on the government to be our friend, because it's like, as you said, it's definitely not.
You know, I don't want to interrupt you, but I think it's something deeper. These parents better make sure that their kids that they're spending all this money on in high school can pass the grade when they get to college.
Yeah, they need to
focus on their children and what they're being taught in these classrooms.
They need to give them that extra push, you know, to study on their own, not just what the school tells them to study, not what the teachers just tell them to study, because especially from back home, I know a lot of schools that, as I said, only teach just so they can pass the Regents test, so that the schools can report the scores, so they can get the funding to just keep funneling these kids through their program. And then when the kid gets to the respective colleges, they're shocked because, you know, they're reading at a 6th grade level, and all this time they thought they were the top of the class, on top of the world, and they're all in for a rude awakening. And unfortunately, some of them get very discouraged and they don't feel like they should continue. Think they've wasted their time with education, and then that's how we get a lot of unfortunate, unsuccessful people.
John in Texas, you're our final caller. We've got about 30 seconds. What's on your mind?
Well, it's much about what the government and what everyone else is saying. First of all, I think that a lot of things come down to class, in that if you talk to upper class or middle class Black America,
45
problem. I won't say that they don't, and some people have probably overcome this issue, but the reliance on the government is due in part to class, and in part it's also because of our community as well. So when I was growing up around my family, and I was getting an education, they would say, you know what, I'm trying to be white, don't try to do it.
20.
And all this other stuff. So we as ourselves send messages to ourselves to say, well, we may not try. Also, if we're in the lower class,
10.
John, we're out of time. Why did you wait so late to call us? I wanted to hear what you had to say. Take care, everybody.
1.
You seem
Clear.
surprised.
I'm not surprised. I am exhausted.
You look exhausted, but you're still going out for dinner. Thank you, Anthony.
Sir.
What? Anthony, you shutting the system down on me. What are you doing?
I'm not doing anything.
Huh?
That's you. I didn't do anything.
I can't hear him because I have my headphone on. What'd you say?
I said it's not me. I didn't do anything.
Somebody's moving my mic. What's going on here? Oh, I got it the wrong way. Please, I was about to say.
Bye, Armstrong.
Bye.